Alrighty, hello. Today I wanted to talk about the concept of emotional releases and how the process tends to unfold, because it can be very intense, and I think it has to often be intense for some of the deeper stuff to come out. And I feel like the only thing that really gets tough is like our mind's interpretation of what's happening. So yeah, I just wanted to share it from my own experience, really. Like, there's been a lot of it coming up for me recently, lots of intense states of things that can only come out, it feels like, through a bunch of conditions aligning together. So, and it will always seem like relative circumstances, if that makes sense. So like for me, it's just a whole bunch of shit blowing up in my life at the same time, and maybe blowing up, it often feels like that, honestly, like shit going wrong financially, in relationships, just a lot of stress, right? Like, feeling a lot of stress and pressure from various different spaces in my life. And then on the other side of it, right, so then that pushes me into a very intense state and working through it how I do. But then on the other side of it, it's like, oh fuck, like that literally had to happen, right? Like I needed these circumstances to all come together, because how else would I have been pushed into something so intense and overwhelming? It's like, you're never going to go there voluntarily. You might want to, and then I feel like this is how we attract these circumstances, right? So I've kind of set the intention many times to the universe, like, please give me whatever you need to for me to take this deeper. And then I think life plays out in that way, but you don't know the timelines. But when it does, you'll probably forget that it's what you wanted, right? Because it's always what you wanted, no matter what your mind is saying. All the tension in your life, you set that up so that you could grow, that you could release, that you could shift forward, that you could evolve, drop paradigms, all of these kinds of things, right? But it is going to be painful. It is going to push you beyond your limits. This is what I always like to say, is you have to be pushed past what feels like your limits to realize that that wasn't your limit. But initially it's going to come with a lot of friction. So it's okay, right? Like, so how this plays out, often emotional release is like the body feels overwhelmed, right? For me, it can often feel like, oh my gosh, my nervous system is just completely overwhelmed. And then I can see these stories start to play out in the mind. But for a lot of people, then that becomes about chronic illness. And this is more of like an old way that I used to speak, was about chronic illness and all of that. But honestly, for me, that all dropped. I can still see the stories play out in the mind, but I can just kind of allow it to kind of roll out. So it's like, wow, I feel like my nervous system is just too much, blah, 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 blah. And then I just go deeper into that. And sometimes I use music, sometimes I dance, sometimes I really like, I feel like anything that forces me into the body gets me more into the emotion, right? So I feel like with these deep emotional releases, we get pushed up into the head, pushed up into the mind. So then there's more stories going on, right? And life can seem so fucking complicated until, like, the way it plays out for me is it drives me to the point of overwhelm and exhaustion. And then I just break down, and then I just kind of lie there and surrender. And you're not in control of this, right? This is what I'm always reminded, is that I'm not in control of this process. You can just be willing to keep going deeper, and then you'll find your way. So for me, sometimes just plays out as like talking to people. It's like it's just whatever feels right. Like I'll talk to people, I'll exercise, I'll do this, I'll do that, and but in the moment, maybe everything just feels like nothing satisfying it, or it's just like a heaviness, right? This kind of heaviness. And I just want to point you out to just kind of be aware of your thoughts, like the mind saying that, to just allow everything to flow through your mind. This is what I do, right? If like it can be intense, and just to know that it's okay, that whatever is playing out in your mind is so helpful. Like for me, it can get so intense sometimes where honestly I'm just like, fuck, I don't want to exist, right? It's like, this is too heavy, I don't want to exist, I don't want to feel this. And then to be like, and that's okay to feel that way, right? To not have this kind of fear of, oh no, those thoughts are really bad, like I need to stop my mind from going into that state. This is, yeah, for me, I can just speak from my own experience. For me, it's a relief to be like, it's okay. And then the heaviness of those thoughts really subside, because it's a fear of the thought, right? It's a fear of, it's like, no, those are the thoughts I shouldn't be having. But if you just allow it and just see, like, this is what's playing out in the mind right now. And then I just go deeper into that. I'm like, yeah, if I can feel that, like, fuck, this is so much. I don't want it. And that's okay, right? You don't need to be eternally grateful. That's the thing with the emotional releases and the real hardcore stuff is it's not rational, right? It's not like you have to be like, oh yeah. It's like realizing on the broader level that sure, you wanted this to happen, but the emotion doesn't maybe feel that way, right? Maybe you feel strong resistance, and then just fucking allow that, right? Genuinely feel that. Genuine, authentic. The genuine, authentic feeling in that moment is not, I'm happy and I'm just kind of with a smile on my face and everything's okay. It's like, no, fuck, it's not. But you don't want to hold on to that as like your story, because that becomes an identity, right? And that's another way of not doing the release, is to be like, yeah, the whole victim story, and I've spoken a lot about that. I'm not going to go into it again. So yeah, I guess the main takeaway I just want to say is like, it's okay. Honestly, I know how intense. I want to just share so somebody else can maybe relate to, like, oh, okay, it's okay. It's okay. Because this was, and I guess the other thought of what to talk about is, what's the most helpful thing to hear when you're in that state? And yeah, I think it's okay is one of it. Like, you're a human. You have to know that it's okay to feel this, and yeah, I don't know what else to say. But like, just to offer that, like, yeah, because it can be a lot, right? I guess that's what I want to acknowledge, is it can be a lot, all of this. Just acknowledge that for yourself. This can be a lot. And just love yourself. You are loved, even if you don't feel it, right? Maybe that's what I want to share, is I love you, even if I don't know you. Because deep down, we're all coming from the same space. So no matter how isolated or alone you feel, at the deepest level, you're not. So just know that it's okay. You're not alone. And you are loved. And then you can feel whatever you want to feel, right? If the feeling is, I'm not loved, then it's okay to feel that as well. Like, that's the important thing here, is that it's okay to feel all of that. Don't be afraid. And it's okay if you're afraid of that, right? Like, there's so much stuff around brain retraining and positive spirituality, which kind of tries to push you away from the really intense negative stuff. And sure, it has its place, but that's not what I'm talking about here. Like, what I'm talking about here is that if that's where life circumstances put you, in this state of complete overwhelm, then it's okay to feel it. And it's often what you need to do. Like, for me, the emotional release stuff, like, it just comes on, and I can feel it in the body first. Like, the body starts to feel overwhelmed, and everything just starts to feel heavy. And yeah, there can be lots of stories playing out in the mind. It can feel like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. This is too much, blah, 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 blah. And and then whatever, then maybe I sit with it, then maybe I meditate, then whatever, and then something just triggers it. Often for me it's just like watching something like a movie or a song, and I feel like I've been worn down so much that the slightest little thing, like in a movie, it's sometimes just like any expression of love, really, I feel. So if it's like recently it was like two people breaking up in a movie, and I could just see how hurt the one person was by that, and it was authentic, it was genuine. For like the first time in the show, there was like some genuine showing of emotion, and then I just broke down. It wasn't even such a sad scene, but right, like all of this stuff has kind of brought it to that place, and then this was the trigger, and then I was just like, yeah, I could feel something coming out, and then it did, and it was like grieving, and yeah. And then basically what I wanted to say is, on the other side of it, and maybe you're exhausted and then you just sleep or something, but like we have a fear of feeling these things, that, oh no, I must stay away from the negative stuff because I'm going to get stuck in it. But the more truly you feel it, it releases, right? And who knows, it might come back. Like I felt this, like 2 days ago I felt something release, and then today I'm feeling all this heaviness again, and then it's back, and then I'm just like, whatever, work through it. But it does, if the lightness comes back, and then as I said, you're not in control of this process, but it does release. That's basically what I want to say, because we can have this fear of it's not going to release, I'm going to get stuck in it. So yeah, I don't find that to be true, and I don't believe that to be true, and you often just have to experience it for yourself to release those fears. So all the best, and I hope that's helpful with some emotion work. I'll show you. I'm in Marseille currently, and I'm off to the UK on Tuesday. I don't know when I'll release this, but I'm flying to London, and yeah, that's my little update. All right,